How goes the family? Welcome back to Larry's Anything Goes. Hope you guys having a great and exceptional day. Can't believe how fast Monday went by, but hey, we're still getting this train going. In the next 7 days, I will be in Texas, Houston, and San Antonio areas. So I'm looking to connect with my people, discuss some business, have some fun too, and make money moves all at the same time. So I'm looking forward to it. I came across this article the other day, and it caught my attention. And because the majority of cities within the United States of America are actually wonderful and beautiful places to reside in. 'Cause it's nothing like me. I love walking around a major city and just, getting some great cuisine from a local restaurant and whatnot, stopping by uh, uh, actual museum, connecting with the locals. There's nothing like it. That's just something I like to do. And I can remember from, the year 2004 to 2019, there's been a big shift in millennials uh, leaving the suburbs and living in major cities. That was the big thing, especially during the 2004 7 time frame, especially before the U.S. economy tanked. It was a big thing. Major cities were starting to they went through I like to say they went through renovations, especially places like Washington, D.C., New York City, LA. The list goes on and on. They went through a lot of renovations because they were tired of having certain areas look the certain way that they did. And they wanted to have, because the thing is, no matter what the situation is, a city and the state wants an area to look decent because they want people to come there. Because without the people, they have no tax base, no matter what city or state you live in. City and state governments need taxes in order for them to, be funded. Same thing with the federal government. So they need population to especially to rise. That's why certain communities disappear and they have to depend on other things because the population is not rising; it's actually decreasing. That's why, in a sense, immigration works in a great way because a lot of times people were, especially if people that are part of a refugee program, a lot of times you see people come from a war-torn country, unfortunately, to the United States. But the deal is that they live in like Wisconsin or they have to live in North and South Dakota, probably most likely even Wyoming and whatnot, places where the population is very low, Montana, and places where places where the state governments and local governments need additional people to live there so their tax base will increase. You know what I mean? Everything's about money at the end of the day. That's the beautiful thing about the wonderful capitalistic country that we live in. But anyways, I remember that rise, and people just wanted to have the convenience of living in the city. You know what I mean? And who could blame them? Having the convenience of living close to one's job, schools, nightlife, etc. Like going to the theater. That's why when I travel, I like to stay within the city limits because I live in the suburbs. So I like to stay within the city limits, walk around, catch an Uber, just do what I do. However, between today's pandemic, skyrocketing cost of living, jobs going more virtual, certain suburban communities developing more town centers, and of course more people becoming more and more self-employed, you know um, and then you have suburban communities that actually build in town centers where you have nightlife and events are taking place. The idea of a lot of people living, or in some instances even visiting a major city, seems insignificant nowadays in 2021, especially with all of today's technology. The idea of even going to a movie theater is becoming obsolete nowadays. That's why that you had the whole AMC stock thing, but I won't get into that. But yeah, because movies come out like that. I mean, heck, it's becoming more normal now, especially with the pandemic. I think this has intensified it more so because this was happening before the pandemic. You had movies going straight from as soon as after they were made, they were just only being posted on Netflix or they were only being posted on Amazon Prime. They weren't even in the theater, and that just intensified during the pandemic. So the idea of people going to a movie theater is just becoming obsolete. I mean, will they still be around in another 20 years? It's a good question. I think that movie theaters that are special, like an Alamo, and things of that nature, that you allowed to you have waiters and waitresses coming to you, bringing you food and beverages and things of that nature. I think those movie theaters will stay in existence, but the old fashioned AMC's, you just never know. Well, that's just my personal opinion. But anyways, the idea for a lot of people living in some instances, even like I said, even visiting a major city is insignificant, especially with all today's technology, or even going to a movie theater. Like I stated earlier, it's just becoming obsolete. The article really went in to on this one statement. For years, urban renewal meant wooing young professionals. Even they can't afford to live in cities anymore. And in today's world, if one, especially as a professional, is living paycheck to paycheck, has become a pathway to financial destruction. I couldn't agree with that statement more. I've been saying that before the pandemic, and even more so, it's intensified after the pandemic. A lot of people, you just don't have the luxury of living paycheck to paycheck, and if you're not about your money, then you're going to be in serious trouble. And I'm going to go into that even more so, because what the article really hit close to home, because I'm from the DMV area, and it's going to be talking about the city of Washington, D.C. The article also stated that Aristotle Teresa, a 39-year-old civil rights attorney in Washington, D.C., is suing the city for $1 billion. He argues that the city government ignored opposition from his clients, who are lower income residents, while purposely wooing creative economic workers to the city by changing zoning laws to allow for the construction of a GOAT of studio and one-bedroom apartments and condominiums. Teresa says that the city purposely gentrified its neighborhoods, and one of the upsides to gentrification of neighborhoods is to improve and become better financially, cleaner, and in theory, depending on the situation, it can be safer. But before I even go into that, the one of the biggest problems that I saw that happened in DC, and my DC natives can understand this, a lot of people left the city because of, they didn't want to live in the city anymore. They wanted to have more room. They wanted to, and unfortunately, I don't have a problem with people leaving the city. I just think the biggest problem is that a lot of people left the city, but they did not keep the real estate. Okay, real estate is gold. I don't care how anyone looks at it. It is gold if you know what you're doing with it. There are a lot of millionaires and billionaires that have done a tremendous amount of work because they're in the real estate business. Unfortunately, you had generations of people that just had a worker bee mentality, and I'm going to be a worker, and I'm just going to get my pension, and then I'm going to move down south, and that's going to be that. That's the end of that, and therefore I'm going to sell my place. And the idea of certain people did, but they're not in big enough numbers. They did not pass down the real estate. Okay, and I think that's one of the biggest downfalls, especially within the African American community, of not handing down assets to the next generation. Unfortunately, a lot of people, not all, have this "I got mine, so you got to get yours" thing in the family. Like if your last name is Jackson, and a lot of households, it's okay. Well, um, James Jackson, he did well and whatnot, and after he passes away, he might leave his kids a car and whatnot. And even if he did leave his kids a house, however, were his kids even trained in the mindset of, hey, we're gonna keep this house in the family, and even if we don't live in it, hey, we can rent it out. And nowadays, you can rent out a house, you can Airbnb a house, especially in any major city. You can make a significant amount of money off of it. But no, let's just sell the house, sell it for a profit. And now the real estate in DC is so expensive that most working people can't afford to even buy real estate, barely, let alone rent anything in Washington, DC, unless the money is right. So that is, to me, that's one of the biggest tragedies that happened in cities like Washington, D.C., where businesses were not passed down or not kept, houses were not passed down or not kept. Because you still have people that are homeowners, that from the previous generations. I got a friend of mine, the house that she lives in now was actually her great grandparents' house, which was passed down to her grandparents, to her parents, down to her. So I think, and I'm glad, and she's teaching her children, her and her husband are teaching their children how to keep that real estate in their family. And the beautiful thing is, given the fact that they were given a house, which is a beautiful thing. I love that they were given a house and it was passed down to them um, with no mortgage. All they had to do was worry about the property taxes and the insurance and whatnot. They had the opportunity to take equity. And this is during the economic downturn of the U.S., where you have foreclosures all over the place. So they had the opportunity of buying at least 4 houses in Washington, D.C. from the years of 2008 to 2014, before the real estate got too expensive. And now majority of the houses they rent out, and they use as Airbnbs. You know what I mean? That's the power of real estate. So she was able to quit her job, and she does what she loves to do on the side: cook food and do hair. She used to have a job with a corporation as an HR specialist, but she didn't like that lifestyle, and now she's her own boss. Her husband still has his job and whatnot, and he handles the real estate too at the same time. And they are actually expanded their operations to more cheaper areas, to Baltimore, Maryland, where they've been able to buy real estate. I think I can't even count the amount of real estate that they've been able to buy. And the husband's to the point now where he's like, he's at, if he says, and I love to hear these stories. He's at a point now where he can quit his job if he wants to. He doesn't have to keep his job now, but he loves what he does. He actually works with youth and whatnot. So he actually helps troubled youth and things of that nature. Because the thing, this is the best part. He actually had a job that paid him way more, but he hated it. I think he worked at like the Pentagon or something like that, or somewhere in Arlington, Virginia. But anyways, he worked there, and because he increased his income on his side, on the family business, I'm not even gonna say side hustle, the family business and real estate, he was able to quit that job that he hated, where I think he was at the Pentagon, and he was able to start doing a job that was actually able to give back to his community, where he gets paid way less, but it's not about the money for him. It's about him adding value to his life and adding value to other people's lives and doing work to him that truly matters. I love those kind of stories. I'm not mentioning names because it's not for me to say. They have their own podcasts, and they go from there. But I love those kind of stories because they are a living example of the people in the Washington D.C. area. When your mind is right and your money's right and you make money moves, and not just have an overpriced house and a nice car and think you're special because you got a six-figure salary. Those are the kind of stories I like to hear. And they're still humble people. They're not snooty people. They don't think they're better than people. So that makes the story even that much more better, because they were regular working professionals. They both went to college. Husband was in the military, came out, he did a great job serving his country, got a good job, started doing real estate with his wife and whatnot. And then she was able to quit her job. And now he's at the position where he can quit his job if he wanted to. He actually got a lower, quote unquote, lower downgraded job because he put his time and energy into something outside of the job he had, I think, when he was working at the Pentagon. So it's all about what you want to do at the end of the day. To me, being rich, in my personal opinion, is when you're able to live a lifestyle you want to and not live in a lifestyle that you always got to take a vacation from. That's just my personal opinion on that. That's my rant about that. I'm way off topic in a sense, but I don't care. I'm gonna keep going, and I'm just gonna call it a day. But anyways, I digress. But anyways, so where was I at? Anyways, um, and I talked about the upside about gentrification, neighborhoods, and things of that nature. But this is the part that saddens me. However, unfortunately, the authenticity of a city, when the city is gentrified, aka the original culture of a city, gets diminished because of gentrification. And in my personal opinion, cities like Washington D.C., New York City, Los Angeles, California have and can become very boring places and whatnot. I mean, LA is not there yet, but New York City to me is definitely there yet. DC is halfway there yet, but it's almost there. Because I remember growing up and I'd visit family members in the Connecticut, New York, New Jersey area and whatnot. And I remember New York City was just a space, the city to go to. Very exciting place, things of that nature. And now it's just gotten to the point where it's too expensive. Well, I think the pandemic kind of just put things in overdrive. But it's so expensive that people don't want to live there like that anymore. And the remote working atmosphere is like, hey, I'd rather do the same job but live in Florida or live in Texas, where it's 10 times cheaper and I can have more space. So it's like I said, the last two times I've been to New York City, it just didn't have that je ne sais quoi, that flavor to it that I remember. But it's been a long time since I've been there. It's been like 6 years since I've been in New York City. So maybe since things are opening up now, things are somewhat get back to where it was one of those great cities. But that's just my personal opinion. But every place has to change. You evolve, you disappear. Nothing stays the same forever. So I get that. But remember one detailed thing, family. Remember, I made a video about 2 years ago about gentrification in the South, because the media usually only likes to highlight major cities on the East Coast and on the West Coast being the most expensive places. But most people don't realize that Nashville, Tennessee, Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, and Miami, Florida are considered some of the most expensive cities in the southern part of the United States right now. And I believe, what is it? Austin, Texas is about to be in that same category. Houston, Texas is about to be in that same category. And the list will go on and on. I can't put it any other way. Any place where people are flocking to in big, big numbers, the cost of living is just going to go up. So if you're not about making your money moves, then you're going to be broke like a fool, and then you're going to get gentrified out. That's just what it is. But and let's just be clear about something, because the only reason why I'm talking about this subject matter now is to really hit on specific points here, family, just to really hit on specific points. If you live within a major city and are planning on staying within a major city, don't care what state you're in, it, you have no choice but to be about your money and economically slash financially literate. The major cities of the United States are not and are no longer for the poor or single income people. And I say that again: the major cities in the United States of America are not and are no longer for the poor or single income people. Even my people that make six-figure salaries will need to have a backup plan. There's no other way to look at it, family. And certain suburban communities have become the same way. That's why we say make money moves, live broke like a fool. Because if you spend more time doing things that aren't about increasing your brain capacity and your knowledge, you're trying to be healthier, trying to figure out different ways to make income and make income from building great relationships with people too. It's a money move is building great relationships with people and vibing with people and connecting with people, having great conversations. It's not just about money and whatnot. But if you're not doing that and you're spending a lot of time doing the norm is dead, in my personal opinion. The norm, the times of just binging in front of the television for 5 or 6 hours, watching movies and television shows and not being productive. Like, if you do that after being productive, I'm with you. And when I mean after being productive, that means outside of your job. Okay. In 2021, yes, being productive means being productive outside of your job. Unless you're one of those people that are productive doing your job on your job and then productive doing a side hustle on your job. I don't advocate for that, but because that's how people can get fired. But if that's what you're doing, then do you at the end of the day. Okay. But I'm just putting it on those contexts right now. Okay. In 2021, parts of Texas and Georgia are very expensive. Parts of North Carolina are very expensive now for a lot of people. Okay. A lot of people miss the boat because they're not economically conscious. They're not literate when it comes to even real estate, And I usually get heavily into real estate on my other channel, Patterson L Properties LLC. But I want to hit this, really hit this point, because in the next 2 to 3 years, I guarantee you're gonna see a restructured of Dallas, Texas, and a restructured of Nashville, Tennessee, a restructured of Atlanta, Georgia. It's not going to look the same. Okay, Miami, Florida, the same way. If real estate's not being passed down, if businesses aren't being passed down, if insurance policies aren't being passed down on any level, you can get an insurance policy and pay $10, $15 a month, life insurance policy, okay? Term life insurance policy, whole life insurance policies. I'm not giving out financial advice. Contact your financial professional, but these are the conversations that still need to be up there. I say this all the time, need to be up there with football, basketball, video games, movies, music, okay? If you discuss these things like you discuss entertainment, then you are right in my book. That's all I got to say. Just getting you ain't even got to discuss it every day, but just knowing about it. That's just his thing. It's that's the beautiful thing about knowledge. You don't have to discuss something every specific day, but just know about it. Be in tune and talk to the professionals about it, because this is how you can. At the end of the day, people want to keep playing checkers when the game is about playing chess, being strategic mentally, physically, and spiritually. All right. So on that note, family, do the great 3 free things: like, share, and subscribe. Hopefully you guys have a great day. Don't forget to check out the online store. Definitely don't forget to, if you're a crypto investor like myself, don't forget to definitely join the Ghost Dana Partners. All this information is in the description. We have opportunity to not only buy crypto, but you have an opportunity to refer others to do the same thing. Have them purchase a specific package. You get a gold crypto card where you can utilize and spend money with your crypto or whatnot, and go from there. All right. So as I always say, make money moves. You're gonna live broke like a fool. The major cities in the U.S. belong to the money makers and the go-getters, not to the basic people. Hate to say it like that, but I just got to keep it real on this one. Okay, the major cities belong to the money makers and the go-getters. All right, if the basic people will just be able to come and visit every now and then, but even having the opportunity, because a lot of people don't want to live in a major city. I'm not mad at that. They love the suburban life. They love their front yard and their deck. There's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of people, I'm a person that just likes having options. So I don't like being stuck in specific categories. I'm a person that likes having options. The thing I always admire about the people with money is they've created an atmosphere where they can have options. And that's what I admire about people with money. Not the fancy stuff they buy, from the jewelry to the cars, to the even owning an airplane and whatnot. Matter of fact, I'll give respect to somebody who owns an airplane, because they got options. So they don't have to fly regular and commercial and whatnot. So I respect the people that have the options. So that's the people that are good in my book. All right. So on that note, family, I'll see y'all later. Take care.